Hi everyone and welcome back.
And we are reviewing
All the restaurants and food options that are included in your cruise.
on the NCL Bliss.
First up, we have taste. It's a bit loud, but the service was good, has a modern interior, it's a little cramped, there's nice light, and there's windows that overlook the water. The food quality was a little inconsistent. We started with
The wedge salad, which the dressing was decent. It had a nice smoky bacon flavor, but it was nothing special, and the tomatoes were unfortunately cold.
Then we had the spinach Caesar. This had nice croutons. The dressing was a little bland or like mid. They had nice fresh cheese on it, which was a nice touch, but there was nothing special and it was just overall a little bland for us.
Then we had the fish and chips. The breading had a nice crunch. The fish was very similar to fish sticks. It was a bit mushy and a little bit fishy for my taste. The fries were unfortunately unevenly cooked. Some were crisp and some were limp. The tartar sauce did have a nice lemon forward, but overall it was nothing special.
Then we had the Philly cheesesteak sandwich. The sandwich was very bready. There wasn't enough filling or cheese to the bread. We needed more meat and cheese just in general. The meat and peppers and onions were decently seasoned. The melted provolone was fine. The roll was fine. The fries were really well done on mine. They had a nice crunch and they were well seasoned. They didn't match the fish and chips at all. But overall, this isn't something I'd recommend to get just because the roll was so bready and it kind of overpowered the sandwich.
For our first dessert, we had the creme caramel. This was not great. There was too much gelatin. It was not creamy enough. It had like an eggy, sulfury taste to it, and the phyllo dough on top and the berries were fine, but it just was not good.
Then we had the chocolate orange mousse. The chocolate pearls were really fun. They had a crunch. The fudge cubes were good. The mousse was nice whipped consistency, but the Jell-O was too much orange flavor and it kind of tasted fake. And I'm not a big fan of Jell-O in general, but the flavor was just a little too artificial for us. If you like Jell-O, you might really like this, but for us, it was nothing special. Then we also tried the peach Bellini here. The peach Bellini was really nice. It had a nice balanced flavor between the champagne and the peach. It wasn't too overpowering. The peach wasn't super fresh, but it was one of those nectar mixes, and it was fine. There was nothing to write home about, but it was a decent Bellini. Then we had the loaded baked potato. This was actually really nice. The chili mixture with the whipped mashed potato inside was really good. They had melted cheddar over the top with a nice creme fraiche sprinkle. It wasn't anything incredible, but it was something unusual that you didn't see on the other menus around the ship.
Then we had the base scallop gratin. This was cooked really well and extremely succulent. It was surprisingly good considering it was a free option on board.
Next up, we had the hummus side. The hummus was actually decent. It tasted just like a grocery store hummus. It wasn't that fresh. There wasn't too much flavor for it. But if you've had Sabra, it tastes very similar to that. It also came with some roasted veggies on the side. This was like peppers and onions and sun-dried tomatoes on the side. This was decent. If you mix it all together, it kind of gave it a funky little flavor. Or if you keep it separate, you could have different bites along the way. Next up, we had the chicken Milanese. This was a breaded chicken cutlet with a salad on top with a nice lemon-forward dressing. There had some crunch to it, but because they put the dressed salad on top, the breading of the chicken got a little soggy, so I think that was a misstep. But overall, the chicken was tender, the breading was all right, and the dressing was nice and lemon-forward.
Then we had the spaghetti carbonara.
This was a little weak, it was more like a Alfredo with some bacon bits on top. I couldn't really, tell that it was a carbonara traditionally, so it was more like a bacon Alfredo for us. And next up, we have the molten lava cake. This is actually nice and soft and liquidy and gooey inside. It wasn't runny, it wasn't underdone, it was actually perfectly cooked. The flavor was pretty good. I feel like it was a little too sweet and not chocolate forward for my liking. The ice cream was a cookies and cream ice cream, which was fine, nothing special. And then
the strawberry sauce kind of just tasted like jam, kind of like melted down. Yeah, it was artificial. It didn't taste fresh. It just could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I'd say the molten lava cake itself was pretty good, but the sides were a little disappointing.
And then we also had the milk chocolate cheesecake.
And this was kind of like a piece of fudge with a crust on the bottom, which I wasn't upset about. I think this is probably my favorite dessert that we had here. It has little dollops of kind of apricot preserve on the side, and then a little marshmallow. It was pretty, it was finessed. It wasn't anything incredibly special, but it had a nice, mild milk chocolate flavor, a crust on the bottom, and then it was nice and pretty to look at too.
And then we also went to Savor, which is pretty much taste. They're just on different sides of the ship, like one's on the right, one's on the left. It's the same exact menu throughout the cruise.
And this one has a pretty similar interior. It's very modern. The service was really good at both. And, I think the food quality was pretty much the same.
So we started with the mimosas. This was a 95% champagne and about 5% orange juice, so it was not balanced at all, and it just needed a lot more orange juice. Like, you were really feeling that champagne.
You're definitely getting your money's worth. If you're really into having heavy pours and mostly champagne and just a little splash of orange juice, this is the mimosa for you. But we like ours a little balanced, so it was fine.
And then we got the coffee. I mean, it's just pour over. It's nothing special. If you want a fancy drink, just go to like the Starbucks on the ship. But I mean, this is just like diner coffee,
Yeah, it'll do the job. It was nothing special, but it was fine. If you're just craving a diner cup of coffee, it's perfect.
And then we had the yogurt parfait. Just wanted more fresh fruit and granola in it. It was a bit bland. It had a very disappointing strawberry sauce. It was more like jam than a sauce. It just wasn't well balanced all around. It just needed a lot more.
We needed more fresh fruit. We needed more textures, more layering. It was fine. It definitely will itch your scratch, but it was not that great.
We also had the cinnamon raisin French toast. This just needed more crust. It was very dense, very bland. Just wanting more seasoning and spices. It just didn't have enough flavor to it, and it's just pretty much like fried bread.
There wasn't a lot of batter. There wasn't a lot of dredging here. It was just kind of like fried raisin toast. Last but not least, we had the loaded breakfast potatoes. The corned beef was really disappointing on this. This was supposed to be roasted potatoes or like home-style fries, corned beef, vegetables, and then an egg on top. Yeah, what can I say? The potatoes needed more crunch. They weren't cooked enough. The eggs and onions were great, and so was the bacon, but the corned beef just was bland. It was cubed, it was chewy, it wasn't succulent. You could tell that either it was chopped up and undercooked, and same with the potatoes. They were undercooked, they didn't have a good seasoning on them. So all in all, pretty disappointing.
On to the American Diner. This was very busy. They're only open for a limited hours, about 3 hours during sea days. So if you want to go, you need to plan accordingly. And you'll also need to wait for a table. Everything is free except the milkshakes, and they are not included with the drink package. They're about $7 extra. So that's up to you if you want to try them.
But, the limited hours that it's only open on sea days and it's only open from 12 to 3 was a little disappointing, and it was extremely busy and very loud. If you get lucky and ask, you might get the sea views, but if not, you're just going to be in a crowded kind of, counter service atmosphere. The milkshakes, like we said, they were about $7. I don't think they're very worth it. Do you?
No, I don't think there's anything special about them. With the strawberry milkshake that we had, it was a decent classic milkshake, but it uses strawberry sauce, not like fresh strawberries.
Yeah, it's kind of like your run-of-the-mill Dairy Queen. They dress it up. They look very pretty. They're very photogenic. But flavor-wise, they're nothing special. Vanilla, once again, this was actually really good. Nice vanilla flavor, good consistency. I love the cornflakes on the top. They added a nice texture. It was a safe choice, but it was nothing unusually good.
The thing is, they also decorate these glasses with all the chocolate and sprinkles or like crunchy bits like nuts, but you can't really eat them unless you're like awkwardly like licking the glass. It's just kind of a waste of ingredients.
We tried the smoked fish dip. This tasted just like tuna fish. It needed more seasoning, it needed more smoke, it needed more cream cheese, Tabasco, Worcestershire. It just needed more of those big punchy flavors to punch it up. The chips were fine. They had some pickled carrots and jalapenos on there. It was fine. I don't know.
It's just kind of sad to look at, though.
Yeah, it wasn't very visually appealing. And it's kind of funny because the milkshakes were so pretty and lacked flavor. This was kind of sad looking. So either like dress it up a little bit, put it in a different, serving vessel. It was just on a large white plate, but it was a little disappointing.
So we had the Caesar salad, and this is kind of my go-to at every restaurant that has one. And these croutons were nicely herbed. It had a nice crunch. The dressing was a bit weak. I wish the anchovies were in the dressing instead of on top. I felt like you couldn't really taste the anchovies in the dressing, and then it's just one bite of saltiness right on top, and it just didn't blend well. And then the shaved cheese was fine, but it just was kind of a miss for a Caesar salad, considering it was like a diner vibe.
All right, next up we had the white bean chicken chili. This tasted like taco meat, which I'm not upset about, but it needed more salt. It was under-seasoned. It also was lacking acid. It was just a really earthy and really kind of bland. It also needed more spice, but it was a decent, safe option if you're a fan of just like kind of carte blanche boilerplate chili with some tortilla strips and cheese on top. this is for you. But, it wasn't that special, and I wouldn't really recommend getting it again.
Then we also had the cheese nachos. This was disappointing to look at again. It was bland, it needed more cheese sauce, it wasn't even melted, honestly, and it needed more spice and seasoning. The pico de gallo was watery, and it just was like rubbery.
Yeah, I think this is about as basic as you get when it comes to nachos. It was some chips where they threw some shredded cheese on it, microwaved it, or put it underneath a salamander. Then they threw some pico de gallo on top and some pickled jalapenos, and they called it a day. Really disappointing. Really lost opportunity to make something fun and interesting with their nachos.
And then we had the cheeseburger. The burger patty was very basic and bland. It was something that you would obviously get at like a buffet. The bun was nice and fluffy. It did need like mustard and pickles and seasoning. The fries were basic, a bit underseasoned, and again, a little undercooked.
Next up, we tried the Wrangler burger. So this one was one of their specialty burgers. It had sauteed onions, bacon, barbecue sauce, jalapenos, and some sesames on the bun. Once again, kind of the same notes. I feel like the burger itself was underseasoned. The patty itself was a little bland. All the toppings were fine. The sauteed onions, the bacon was good. The barbecue sauce was a nice touch. I think there could have been more jalapenos. All in all, a little disappointing if you're having to wait. And the fries, once again, some were crunchy and some were underdone and just a little limp and floppy.
And then for our first dessert, we had the chocolate mousse. You really have to like chocolate to eat this thing. And the strawberry coulis on top. They were both well done, but I didn't really care for the jello on the bottom. If you're a fan of jello, this might be for you. But otherwise, I would skip it.
Next up, we had the carrot and walnut cake. This is actually really fun and interesting. The presentation was really good. It was fine flavor. You needed more cream cheese frosting. The creme anglaise on the side, the cream sauce, I think was very random and it tasted terrible. So I don't know why it was there. It was so pretty without the white cream sauce, the creme anglaise, and the white chocolate shards. If they had just had this strip of cake with the pretty decoration on top, it would have been fine. It would have suited this restaurant fine. So I feel like they kind of ruined it with that extra overthinking of the decoration.
And then we went to the local bar. This is the pub-style restaurant. There's games on the TV. It's pretty loud because the casino is right nearby. It's kind of that vibe of
your local bar. It also has the bowling alley, the single-lane bowling alley that's right next to it, and the adults kind of arcade games right off the side of it. I feel like it's very loud. Definitely if you're trying to have a conversation and you want to chill, this isn't the best place. The service was very attentive. The food quality was fine. So first up, we had a couple of drinks. So we tried the Paloma. The Paloma was very grapefruity. It wasn't very balanced. It needed more alcohol. It kind of just tasted like a grapefruit soda, and then had a weird burnt aftertaste. It needed more alcohol. It needed more carbonation. It was just very grapefruit forward with a burnt aftertaste.
And then we also had a drink called Red Bubbles. This kind of just tasted like a canned drink, like that weird aftertaste of malt liquor, very sweet, something you would drink probably in college, and you probably don't want to drink anymore.
Next up, we tried the pretzel bites. The pretzels needed more salt, and they were a little dense. The cheese was watery and bad, so the cheese sauce wasn't good that came with it. And I couldn't taste the beer in that cheese dip. So all in all, not good. Would not recommend.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am a hardcore pretzel fan, and I would skip this.
Next up, we also had the grilled sausage sliders. Unusually good. This was a highlight. This was probably the best bite we had at this place. The caramelized onions were really good. The mustard forward sauce was really, really nice on it. I really liked the bite from the mustard. The buns were really, really good. They were fluffy. They didn't have a nice crunch on them, so they were just mid. And the sausage, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just a nice kind of pub sausage on it, and I thought it was good.
And then we had the loaded nachos. This needed way more cheese. Again, the cheese wasn't melted. It was kind of just shredded and thrown on top, maybe cooked for like 5 seconds, and there you go. But there was so much chips compared to toppings, I just needed a lot more of it. It just was kind of a miss.
All right, then we had the Coney Island hot dog. The chili was fine. The cheese needed to be melted. The bun was stale. I didn't like the hot dog. The sausage itself was not good. Didn't have snap, didn't have good flavor. I wouldn't recommend this. Just get a side of chili with cheese to be completely truthful. The fries were fine. There was nothing else to say.
Then we had the Reuben. The meat was good. It was very lean. The dressing was heavy, which was a little too sweet. The pickles were limp and kind of flavorless. The fries were limp and under-seasoned once again.
Yeah, I think, as far as a Reuben goes, the sandwich itself was fine. The meat was really good. It was the highlight. The lean corned beef was really good. The Swiss was fine. The sauerkraut was fine. The sandwich was good. Just the other things with this were not great. Next up, we tried the brownie raspberry swirl cheesecake. This, surprisingly, was one of the best desserts on board for free dining. The brownie was moist and had a nice chocolate flavor. Wasn't overpowering. We like really intense chocolate, so if you do too, you might want a little bit more. The cheesecake was creamy and very decadent. The raspberry sauce was great. No notes on that. And then just the whipped cream was nice. It was a little melted because it took a while to get to us, but I think this is a great option. If you want to come here and try something and you have a sweet tooth, definitely try the cheesecake.
Then we also had the hot fudge sundae. This was decent, like nothing to complain about, but the chocolate unfortunately tasted artificial and it wasn't really like hot fudge.
Then we had the apple pie. Ice cream was icy, so that wasn't great. The apples were bland. The crust was tough and overcooked, but at the same time, the bottom was a little undercooked. This was a miss on our half. We did not like it at all. If you're coming here, definitely try the brownie over this.
And then onto the Manhattan room. We got a quiet table in the corner, which was much appreciated. Better than other restaurants for sure.
Yeah, this was, a solid dinner option. It's included in your cruise, so that's a nice touch. Definitely ask for a quieter table out to the sides if you can. Once again, if you sit in the middle, it's going to be pretty busy, pretty loud. You're going to be close to other people. So we always ask to have a quiet table in the corner or out towards the sides. Ours was right next to a window, so that helped also.
And then to start, they give you the bread basket. I mean, it was basic, nothing special. Butter isn't anything to rave about, just classic bread basket.
There were two different types of rolls. One just white roll, kind of sourdough, and one that was just a multigrain roll. They were both decent, nothing to write home about. Fluffy on the inside, crusty on the outside. Then to start, we had 2 glasses of wine. We had the rosé from France, and we had the Chianti from Italy. The rosé was nice, light, very crisp, but had a little fruity floral notes to it. The Chianti was nice and intense, had those stone fruit, plum, cherry flavors, a little tannic, but was nice and complex.
And then for our first appetizer, we had the bruschetta. It was not cold. The cheese kind of tasted like a creamy laughing cow, which I don't think it was. It did need a little more basil and parsley, but it did have a nice garlic mixture to it. It was surprisingly really good.
Yeah, the tomato and garlic topping were really intense, really good. We just wanted more of that basil kind of shredded in there or some parsley for some complexity. But all in all, pretty good.
And then we also had the baked brie salad. This had brie, fig, and honey, which was really smart to add all together. It just did need a little more brightness, like an acidic vinaigrette, or some bitterness to it. I did have a little green onion, but it just needed something a little bit more.
Yeah, we were missing that acid. We needed a little more acid. It was very earthy, rich, decadent, oily, and in a good way. We just needed more acid.
And we did like that the brie was kind of wrapped up in a phyllo dough kind of thing, so it did add that crunch to it.
Yeah, and it made it more fancy. This is definitely a step up from the places like Taste and Savor and the local bar.
Then we had the cheese ravioli with lobster sauce. This was very salty. The lobster flavor was kind of artificial, so that was very unpleasing. It had that very fishy taste. The noodle was perfectly cooked al dente. The ricotta was pretty good. It's just that lobster taste that didn't seem real.
If you could have this ravioli with any other flavor besides the lobster, it would have been really good. It would have been a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. The noodles were cooked perfectly. It's just they had that lobster in there and the lobster sauce over top that really ruined it. I don't know what they did to that, but it just tasted really bad.
Then we had the Italian beef meatballs.
Yeah, these were nice and tangy with a spicy sauce on top. The nice garlic butter parsley crisp bread on the side was not bad. It was very crunchy, but good for texture. And then I think the sauce made it even too tart, It was kind of more of a spicy tart kind of dish, and we were looking for more balanced. The tartness was just a little strange.
And then, of course, I got the Caesar salad. Had a crouton crisp on top. Unfortunately, it wasn't very crispy. It was kind of bland. The salad did lack some acid, some salt. Didn't really taste the anchovies here. You would think they would put anchovies on top because this is like a white tablecloth dinner place compared to the diner, so it was a bit surprising. The dressing just kind of tasted like ranch, which I don't mind, but it wasn't really a Caesar salad. It was kind of just like less to be desired.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in the dressing here. The presentation was nice. The crumbled / shredded cheese was really nice. Shaved, really, cheese was nice. But yeah, the dressing was a disappointment.
Then we had the 3-cheese baked ziti. The noodles were slightly overcooked. It was kind of bland. It was just like fine to eat. The ricotta on top helped because it added a little nice sauciness to it. We did like the vegetables in the sauce, but it just wasn't that great.
It could have been like a red pepper sauce, but yeah, it was just surprising. And once again, it wasn't bad per se. It definitely looked great. The look of it was really nice, but the flavor was lacking. You know, we're picky about our al dente noodles and the sauce and the cheese, and it just wasn't anything special. And next we got the special of the night, which was a chicken and seafood paella. The rice actually was really good. They did a good job cooking the rice. The chicken was really good. The shrimp and calamari were terrible. They were overcooked, and it was really chewy and not pleasant. The mussels actually were cooked really, really nicely, and you could tell that they were fresh. They didn't taste fishy at all. They were really well done. Not evenly cooked, but not bad.
So our first dessert was the Snickers pound cake. I did not taste any Snickers at all. I didn't even see any Snickers at all. We first thought we got the wrong item, but they were like, no, that's it. I mean, it was a good pound cake for sure, but I would not call it a Snickers pound cake.
Yeah, we were missing like the caramel, the nougat, the
nuts.
chocolate, the nuts. You know, the pound cake was fine. You know, I'm not a big fan of white chocolate, and once again, they had their usual strawberry sauce that tasted very artificial, so it wasn't great. And then we had the chocolate eclairs. The shells were a little dry and stale. It seemed like they'd been sitting out for a while, and the filling was disappointing. I wouldn't really recommend this. They had a nice chocolate flavor, I guess, if we were looking for something that I had to recommend, but all in all, not great. And then finally, we had the sugar-free vanilla cheesecake. This had a soft meringue, which was fine on top, and then it was room temperature, and that was fine. Just all in all, the flavors were lacking. I was disappointed by the desserts at this place, especially since we've had some really good desserts, like at the local bar. Compared to this, I just was a little disappointed. All in all, we definitely felt like the Manhattan Room was a step up from Taste and Savor in the local bar. Food-wise, looks-wise, the vibe, the service as well. But the food, especially the dessert, was a little disappointing.
And then last but not least is the Garden Cafe, which is just your classic buffet on any other cruise ship.
Yeah, you know, they had rotating specialties every single day and every single night. You know, it was generally pretty busy. You had your burgers, you had your hot dogs, your chicken wings. I was unusually happy with, you know, the international offerings. They had a great selection of different Indian food specialties, Asian food specialties from all over Asia, as well as different specialty theme nights. And I thought it was decent, if not fine. It does get pretty hectic and busy in there. Sometimes it can be hard to find a table, but all in all, we felt like the food offering was really, really nice and really good. So those are all the included food options and restaurants on the NCL Bliss. Now stay tuned, we're going to cover some more restaurants and more bars and food options on the cruise. These are the ones that you have to pay a little extra for, or they may be included with your drink package.
Or dining package,
Yeah.
depending what package you get. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our stuff, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell,
And thanks for watching.